This is Julien and Bertrand for this building public session. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. Today we have a special program for you guys. We're gonna talk a little bit about and build different things today. Mainly, we're gonna talk about this subgraph, basically integration, and what is a graph? Why do we need that? Why a certain number of applications building on top of Arthera also need that? By the way, we just crossed, I think it's 107 projects sort of committed to build on Arthera, so that's an excellent news. And yeah, I'm not gonna go through all the news, otherwise it's gonna take a few hours, I guess. Now, Bertrand, how do you want to start? Do you want to show some stuff? Maybe you can share your screen, and maybe we can start by simple explanation of what is a graph, what do we call a graph, and why do we need that.
Okay. So maybe I can start with the result of what we will build together during the workshop. So
Yes.
this time to limit the possible surprise or potential surprise, prepare in advance, and so we'll show you the final result. Then we'll remove everything, at least remove all the subgraph graph node part, and then we'll explain how you can build it also by yourself.
That sounds perfect. And if you share your screen, it's gonna, get a little bit more visual, so we can sort of understand what we're doing here.
So
I think just as a comment, as you prepare the screen sharing and all, for these building public sessions, sometimes we sort of give ourselves like sort of challenges and try to make stuff work. Sometimes we take a little bit more time to prepare. We've been doing that for quite a few weeks already, and
15. It's already
or 15
building public 15.
15 times already. And we kind of noticed that it's probably better and more comfortable for everyone when it's like better prepared, and to avoid some moments in the video where we we're looking for different stuff, and we're stuck with one specific error, which makes us waste up to 30 minutes, even more, for one simple error, right? That happens all the time. And so, yeah, so on these sessions, we try to avoid that, but also we also want to keep this how to say that,
Repair in public.
no, but I mean, we also want to keep this authenticity that we want. So it's try to find this balance
We
between.
need to find. Oh, maybe we can do two types of the two types. One type that is prepared, and one type which is unprepared, and then we go with the flow.
Yes.
Because I feel, from my point of view, it's more fun when you.
Yes,
it's more fun, and also more useful for those watching.
Yes.
If they want to learn how to repair, if we repair in public, because if we prepare everything and show only the good part, like the working part and not how we handle the errors, then you don't get the expertise of handling the errors. Because from my point of view, the expertise is when you are able to handle the error and not just applying what is just documented and when it's work just out of the box.
Yes. Also, I think so. It's kind of not easy to find this balance between authenticity and efficiency. So, but
So we split maybe like having one efficient version and one more authentic version. It could be this
yes,
way people
or
could set
maybe,
the expectation.
or even more simply, like on some topics, we are more confident than others, right? For example, I can be super comfortable when it comes to, say, integrate the subscription in a smart contract, then deploying it, maybe using some template we have, and just I'm super strong at copy pasting contract address in interfaces. So this is one of my skills. So yeah, so when we are super confident, maybe we can sort of take more risk and expose a bit more ourselves, and showing the world that we also make mistakes, right? So yeah.
Yeah, or like open source project have some mistake or like need some maintenance because version upgrades and not everyone is able to maintain all the versions. That was the case, for example, for the graph with
It's true.
with the
You mean,
subgraph.
you mean that sometimes they
The
the
version breaks.
how do you say that?
The version breaks, like you have a breaking
Hmm.
like with the semantic versioning. So when you go to a new major version and you don't lock your dependencies, then you got the new version and it's not expected and it breaks everything. So
Yes,
like
that's why we have this sort of version locking uh, file.
yeah, but then when the version you expected to run is not available anymore online because it has been deprecated and removed, or because
Yeah.
there was a security fix and you should have used the security fix,
Mhm.
then everything can happen. So like even in Subgraph, there was
And
some.
for the
So
principle, for those who are not familiar with this with these things, it's kind of important to when we work on an open source project, it's important, like for the contributors, it's important for the contributors to uh, even just run the application. Sometimes you cannot even run it sometimes because it's too because the versions are not locked, and so you don't have the same version, and so you're not even able to run the software on your own machine, so you're not able to contribute, and that's a problem. That's one of the many problems that we meet as we want to sort of contribute and build, and eventually can even say co-build some parts of the sort of technical bricks that altogether compose the Web3. We can
mm,
the
so as
the
an example for this topic, here, when someone has tried to deploy this blocks subgraph for Avalanche, then he had to put some fixes and update. And
Mhm.
so you can see you can see the update in the pull request that he was kind enough to contribute to the upstream. And you
Mhm.
see here that we upgraded from this version 20 of Graph CLI and Graph TES for TypeScript
Mhm.
of the Graph protocol to version 50, 51 and 31.
Okay.
And also adding the start block of one that was not present before. And so here you can, it helps also to decide at which block you want to start indexing with this subgraph.
So that was one of the issues you met, right?
Yeah, and one of the issue I made before, but on this subgraph, it was already fixed by this contributor when he tried to deploy with these updated dependencies. And
Okay,
so,
so
uh,
one other external contributors noticed the problem and fixed it before you came and do your thing, right?
yeah, and this way, I've not. I mean, if I started directly with this graph, I would not have seen the problem because it was already fixed. But I've used also tried before another block subgraph
Hmm.
from the source of this block subgraph, and it was not fixed on this one.
Mhm.
If you look
Mhm.
here, you will see that there is this repository, and there is this repository is
For the moment,
3 years old.
I think we don't see your screen for the moment, Bertrand.
Really? You?
I don't think. Um,
Yeah, I don't see it in the.
yeah, that's all right.
I
That's all
know,
right.
I see. I mean, you don't see the GitHub.
I don't see it right now, and I think the audience.
Okay, because
Mm.
I see it in.
But
Let me.
while
Yeah,
while
here I don't. Maybe because you need to put it public now.
um, share screen. Wait. Share screen. No, I'm gonna share my screen here.
I can
Uh,
stop screen sharing, but then I can share screen again. Maybe if I disable my camera, but let's retry. I can try to put the full screen, but yeah. So what I wanted to show is this.
Bertrand would like to share his screen. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Because
can
I
share
need
my
to.
screen.
Yeah, I need to activate it.
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
My bad. I just needed to activate it. All right, that's done. Um,
Yeah, and yeah, it's not great anymore. So, and how you we see it in live.
yes.
So here, what I was telling is that here it's 3 years old. So if you look at the package JSON, you will see it's using a very old version,
Mhm.
17 and 17 on both.
Okay.
Then, if I go back here, it was so where it's I've seen this repository. If we look at the JSON, here
Mhm.
we see it's now using the upgraded version of 51 and 31,
Mhm.
and it came from the pull request. No, here from the pull request. So that was the contributor that submitted this
Okay.
this correction, and you can see the pull request here. So pull request 4, and before it writes, it was still using the version 20.
Okay.
And the version 20 was fixed. Directly, even the version 21 had a dependency issue that was fixed a long time after the version 51 was fixed, this dependency. So now
Okay.
the version 20 works again, but you have better execution, faster execution in
Mhm.
this new version because they use also a new version of assembly script. So
Mhm. Mhm.
it's all about following the upgrade of your dependencies.
It can kind of quickly become a pain, right? Because
Yeah,
I
it's
feel
tricky.
like not only in the Web3 space, in development in general, like
Hmm?
everything goes so fast that it's hard to have sort of stable product, right? In my view, but
Yeah.
so we
So
always try to use the most stable bricks for a specific project, and it's kind of tough because sometimes you have one of these bricks that would need some update, etc. And so you want to update everything, and I mean, I just mean it's just not that easy. That's
yeah.
the
So and then you have even indirect dependencies. So the problem here
yeah.
was not in the direct dependency of Graph CLI,
Hmm.
but in indirect dependencies, because Graph CLI was depending on an IPFS client, from what I remember, and then the IPFS here, IPFS HTTP client, and this IPFS HTTP client was depending on on a, on a branch of a component, like a branch of a fork of a component, and this branch was not created as a component. So it was used directly as a branch. And when the branch has been merged, finally, with a pull request into the upstream component,
Hmm.
all the components that was that required or that depend on this branch just failed to install again because the branch was merged and deleted. So
Yes, that's the kind of issue you can run into. Maybe on a at a higher level, like what are we trying to do here? We're gonna work on graphs and subgraphs, right?
yes, so
Um,
the
maybe I can give my own sort of definition of that, and you can
mhm,
correct it if wrong. So a subgraph is a tool that allows you to index a certain number of data, in our case, coming from the blockchain,
mhm,
right? Or some specific smart contracts. So you kind of prepare a certain number of, for example, questions. For example, how many holders of a given NFT, and this makes what we call a schema of
mhm,
a graph, and then we can use this graph, this indexer, uh, to display a certain number of data to the end user, right? So, for example, on a decentralized exchange, I want to see the current price of a given pair, right, of two different assets.
mhm,
So, and I need it as I log to the page, right? I don't want to, as a user, I don't want to wait. I cannot have, like, several seconds uh, before just accessing this very basic piece of data, right? And so for this, that's why we have these graphs in place. Um, and of course, when you kind of interact with the DApp, then the state is actually updated at smart contract level, at Arthera's level, right, on the blockchain, and then the indexers also get updated, and then it all reflects on a web page, for example. And before I let you uh, let you do your own comment. You also can an interface, also, instead of using a graph, you also can sort of pull data directly from the smart contract, but that's like a different way. It can be slower, and we actually we know that any end user, any human, right, can't really accept to wait. So and that means friction, which means less revenue for a given service, etc., etc. So this is pretty important. What do you think of my super definition of graph?
No, I feel it was, I think, a good introduction. I mean, like it's good to have the end user, or like a developer point of view, like end user of this technology point of view. Like,
Yes, the impact on the end user is
yeah.
always.
So the impact, like we have pancake swap at the problem, for example, that there was too many transaction on and the chain, the blockchain, that the graph, as a subgraph, was not able to index fast enough for the data to be refreshed fast enough and display fast enough on the web browser of the end user. So
Mhm.
they started a bounty for the developer to create a smarter subgraph that index faster. And now there is even new way in the graph technology to create a faster subgraph. So
Mm.
it's this way. It's all about scaling. But
Yes, and yeah, it actually makes your application scale, right? Otherwise, you would be eventually stuck with only a few number of users, and that's something you don't really want, obviously. But what did I want to ask? Yeah, historically, indexers for blockchains are pretty recent, right? Um,
depending on what you consider recent, but
well, I mean, Ethereum exists since it was live in July 2015, and then we started to have indexers. I guess I don't know, maybe a few weeks or months after that. But I mean, the graph kind of stood out, right?
yeah, I mean, from the marketing point of view and the hackathon point of view.
Are
So,
you sure? Are you sure it's only marketing? Because it
I
was.
mean, marketing in also that's what got the money. And so when you got the money, you got the marketing and you got the sponsorship in the hackathon. And
Uh-huh.
so it's always well, I didn't want to start the debate about that. Usually, the most successful product is not the most technical product also, because you need to be aware of the product. So the problem when you have a too technical product is that you don't spend time or money on the making people aware about it. People find it's too difficult to use it. So
Mhm.
that's why it's good to have a balance between technicality or technology,
Mhm.
user experience, developer experience, and business experience.
Mhm.
So I feel that from what I've seen in Subgraph got this better mix also of integrating protocols or getting protocol integrate or depend on Subgraph. And but then there are other projects like Covalent or
Mhm.
BitQuery or like a different way of indexing the blockchain.
Mhm.
And also the big difference between this kind of generic indexing and app-specific indexing is
Mhm.
that the generic works for it's like a framework
Mhm.
that should work in any case. And
Mhm.
so, as always, when you use a framework, you make a compromise between the genericity of the framework and that would give the best practice to make it easier to integrate with your app, but then you don't have the optimization that you could have if you made something that is really specific to your app.
Yes,
So,
yes.
but
And,
then you got the maintainability also of the genericity, because then you are not alone to work on your indexer. You are just applying this generic indexer to your own use case or your own app,
mhm.
and you benefit from the updates or upgrades of all others working on it. That's I feel the power of open source.
Right. And
But
how
also the weakness and the keeping it
sometimes
updated.
sometimes some weaknesses, but overall, we can sort of feel the sort of efficiency of open source development anyway. Um, but yeah, that would be like, tech versus marketing is obviously an endless debate. But in the case of the graph, as they kind of they were able to show everyone that they are available,
Mm,
and with a pretty active builders community as well,
mm,
uh, which also kind of allow them to also improve on the technical side, I
yes.
might say. So yeah, that's yeah, obviously an endless debate here. What would you recommend to for example, to a project currently building on Arthera? Um, do they have to have a subgraph? No, not necessarily.
Not
Sometimes they just.
necessarily, but I mean, if they want to, yeah, as you explained, the purpose is that to not depend directly on the blockchain logs,
Yes.
but to index these blockchain logs into an indexer, for example, the graph by creating a subgraph,
Mhm,
using an existing subgraph that they use on another blockchain. Uh,
mhm,
and then by running this subgraph, if the subgraph have not too many events to handle, you get like a cache. So instead of querying directly the blockchain for the data you want in the events, you just, like here, you query a subgraph,
mhm.
and the subgraph will reply from the PostgreSQL database that is the database, at least the default database of subgraph, of the graph.
Okay. Ah, oui,
So
of the graph itself. Okay.
uh,
Can you maybe zoom a little bit and
it's
maybe.
already zoom, but I can try to zoom more. Like
It's
here,
already zoomed?
it's two times already.
All right, all right. No, no, that's, I think, like this is already a little bit better. And what do we see here?
So here we see the interactive, the graph IQL. So
Mm-hmm.
for interactive query language. So
All
what
right.
they call like the playground to be able to try some queries, design and play some queries
Mm-hmm.
on the subgraph that is hosted on this graph node.
Right.
So
Okay.
this way, so that's the end result of this of today's session, is to be able to use that.
Uh-huh. And can we, so this is a subgraph
Yeah. So
that
here you
is
see a graph.
that
You
is
see
that
the
is
name.
hosted by us, right?
Yes, and one of our server at the address arthera.bus.guru.
Right. Yeah. So the URL. Um, and can you maybe explain, like, do we have, like, do projects need to host their own subgraph node?
Then it depends on the reliability and the dependency you want, but we can, I think we can try first to host their subgraph if they don't want to mess with all the Docker compose or all even the technicity of hosting a graph node. So there is different parts. So hosting the graph node, and in the graph node you have different dependencies, several dependencies. So to manage the dependency, you can use Docker Compose, at least to start practicing with. And then when you run a graph node, then you need to create a subgraph that will define this kind of schema, like you can see here documented here also. So in this schema, you can search on the schema, and here on the query, we'll see that this query you have two different fields, the block and the blocks with the plural. So every time you have what they call an entities. So here, when you define a block, it should also have a collection of blocks in plural, because here, if you want to query like a collection to have different results. So here, for example, by default, here it will be the 100 first. And here in this query, we say we want the 10 first result.
Okay.
And if we select just block, the block will only reply one result, because we select which block 8 we want, or which ID, or if there is, and what to do if there is a subgraph error.
Yeah. So and the block height is the block number, right? So it's a given point in time, right?
Yeah, here the block is the block number, I think.
Sure. Okay.
Because here, that's what we got.
And do you mean this thing work? Like can we
yeah, we can run the query.
And you can actually run a query right now, yeah?
Yeah. So let's just remove that.
Yes.
Because here it's interactively designing the query.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
So and here, if I play, here you see that you received a response in a JSON format. So and here it's in a GraphQL format, which is based and also on JSON. And here, because I asked for the 10, I could ask for the 5. So here, if I want to change, I could put set, and then play it again.
Okay, play it again.
And here you have the hash, like the ID of the block and the number of the block. But then you can select if you want, for example, the parent hash.
Okay, so these are.
If you want to check if it's really a blockchain, you should have the parent hash in every block. That's so. Let's for example.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, for those who don't know, in a blockchain, you typically have the hash of the previous block in the block itself, right?
Yeah, and so you can see that here the block number 2, the block number 1 has this ID, and you can see that this ID you find as the parent hash of the block number 2.
Right.
And the same for the block number 3. The block number 2 has this ID, and you find this ID again as a parent hash of the block number 3.
Interesting. And that's so there you're looking at Arthera testnet, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, for now you have to believe me, but I can show you the source of the subgraph. If you want to don't trust, if you don't want to trust me, but to verify by yourself. And here you'll see that was even my latest comic that was at this time of refresh 1 hour ago. And now it's like 2 hours ago. And so here I've moved the network, the name of the network to index in the data sources from Ethereum to mainnet, because the mainnet is what I've kept configured in the graph node configuration.
Okay.
Usually, if we want to make it cleaner, we should call it maybe Arthera or even Arthera testnet. But then that was a problem of deployment if you don't align the same network name on both sides, on the graph node and on the subgraph.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you can only index. You can only ask a subgraph to index what is already configured in the graph node. If the graph node have no data, have no RPC to query the network you require, then it will even get an uncoached exception, and so it will fail the deployment.
All right. So also before maybe we go into the sort of the steps that allowed you to actually get there, like, because I know that to get back to maybe more general stuff, I mean, some projects have their own graph node run by the graph, and
Some blockchain, yeah.
so some blockchain, some networks, yes. And what's
Yeah.
what's the interest of that? For is that something we want or
For the reliability, but then that was it's deprecated now, because that was what they call the hosted. I could even show you here. So if I come back there and if I go to the graph, here you can see the quick start of the graph, and see that now there is a Subgraph Studio, but this Subgraph Studio only support the blockchain that's paid for a big amount for this integration. And
how much?
I'm not, I'm not the good one to reply to this question.
Come on.
But then still you can operate here. You can operate your own graph node. That's the interest of open source.
Yes.
So you can even compile the graph node from the source code, or you can use one of the provided Docker image.
So yeah, that's part of the magic of open source, right? You can go ahead and pay $500,000 to have this support and all these things, which can be great, but you also can run it yourself. I mean, as a network, and and just have it available for any projects building on Arthera. And that's something we actually offer. If you guys run a project that already has or needs Subgraph, Arthera is the right place for you. And if you don't have a graph, a subgraph in place yet, we also can help at setting all this up and all the rest, even building the schemas and all. Right, we can always give a hand. I'm not I'm not a super specialist on GraphQL, but I pretty recently leveled up, and I'm sure I can help.
And so to show more in detail, here you have that's why you see the initial version was called hosted service. So it was fully hosted by the Graph project. And so now it was still so distributed by the Graph, but still centralized infrastructure by the Graph. Now with the GRT token, with their tokens, they are in the process of migrating to the subgraph decentralized network. And there is a documentation on how to migrate or how to reach out from other systems.
Okay.
So this way you move from the api.zgraph.com, which is hosted service, to here the Subgraph Studio manage still both hosted service, but now the Graph Explorer, it's here. You see there is an index network. That this index network are only the decentralized index network. The networks that are indexed in a decentralized way.
In they are decentralized sort of index network.
So
And
you see there are not so many blockchain here.
Yes, that's also why I think, if I remember well, that's also why they have their own token, if I'm not mistaken, to sort of be used in this specific protocol.
And you can see here, so like an overview, the epoch, and also for the two chain of Ethereum and Arbitrum, because they moved also the GRT to not have too many gas fees. They moved, they bridged from Ethereum to Arbitrum 1. And now on Arbitrum 1, you see there is less epoch, but still it has generated more than 8 million of GRT reward of the token reward. And you have more than 200 millions of GRT token staked.
Oh, staked. Okay. Okay.
It's also staking. So, and here you can see the epochs. And like after every epoch, it distributes the fees, because when it's because it's decentralized, instead of being able to query freely the centralized API, now you need to pay with a GRT token when you query this decentralized indexer.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just check by curiosity the graph, like GRT token price right now. It's 9 cents. Anyways, just for info.
You see the different type. So indexer, curators, and delegators.
Right. Okay.
But
Okay.
flowing to Arbitrum.
In every way, in every way, it surely will help your own application to scale. And I think Arthera is all about sustainability, and so I think it's kind of important to have these sort of pieces of infrastructure in place, not only for your own application, but also maybe for another projects building on Arthera who would also need such a subgraph. So it's I think it's really kind of a must-have, actually, or some other indexers as well. But
yes, because then, as you can see, for example, Uniswap here as the subgraph, they moved. I still talk about subgraph Uniswap v3 Arbitrum Uniswap v3 Celo, because that's. But if you look here, there is still Uniswap v2.
Can you zoom a little bit for us, please?
Yeah. Sorry. Like this.
Thanks.
And more.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was saying, like here now, the biggest indexer run directly the substream of Uniswap v3 Ethereum, and substream is a new technology that of the graph that is faster than the original subgraph.
That is what? That is Truster?
No, substream, like is faster the original subgraph.
Okay, faster than the original. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, could be, I don't want to say legacy of Subgraph, but
Okay.
if
Oh.
you handle a lot of events, you should not stay with the subgraph, but
Mm.
you should go with a substring
Interesting. Interesting.
because it's more optimized for the
Mhm.
latency.
Mhm.
Because the main problem, if you ask developers about the main problem with Subgraph, is update latency.
Mhm.
Like if you look how the subgraph is updated, for example, whatever, encore like compound or even ENS.
Mhm.
If you look here on the ENS, here you see that it's synced, but if you look at the log, you will see that it could here with where they are it's lucky, but you see that the block number is not always up to date.
Okay.
So like there could be a delay between the blocks. Like even here, you see the blocks increased, but our logs doesn't increase
Mhm.
because maybe it doesn't refresh always. And
Right, but can you just tell us what it means for end users? Like, is it going to have
so
an impact somehow? It depends on how the app is built, right?
yes, so the end user will not see the most up-to-date information.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a problem, right? It is a
I
problem.
mean, the impatient user will not wait enough to see the information he expects.
Right. Right.
So he has done a blockchain transaction. So first, you have the latency of the validation of the blockchain transaction.
Yes.
And then you have the latency of the UI detecting that the transaction has been validated. And while
Yes.
you have this latency of the UI detecting the transaction to be validated, you have also the latency of the indexing of this validated transaction
Mhm.
into the indexer.
Right.
So when you are lucky, both latency are nearly the same. So you don't notice in the UI that the data is not refreshed because the UI has waited to detect that the transaction has been validated.
Mhm.
But there could be a delay between transaction being validated and detected by the UI and the transaction being indexed.
Okay. Okay.
So it depends on the speed and how many events
Mhm.
you try to index at the same time. Because
Mhm.
on we can show on ours, if you look at our blockchain here, when we have a daily transaction of nearly 140,000 transactions
A day.
per day. So if you want to index all of these transactions,
Mhm.
like here you see the blocks are coming nearly every second.
Mhm.
And so if we want here, every time there is a block and that you see on the block explorer that is already kind of indexed by the block explorer. So you
Mhm.
can also query the API of the block explorer. You are able also to create from the subgraph.
Okay. Okay.
So here, if we say order by, and I think that will be order direction. So here we have the ascending order direction, but we could do descending order direction. So here we say we want the 3 latest block
Three
and not
later.
the 3 first block.
Uh-huh.
And then we can check how fresh is our subgraph when compared to the bucket explorer.
Show us. You want to dare to click there? Yeah.
Yeah, and here you see, so we are at 387.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have at already 400.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, but here, I mean, the time I take between to compare both
Yeah. Only the time
already
it takes to
increased by
compare.
20 seconds. So.
Okay. Okay.
So you should check at the same time, but you see that it's well updating. So you
Right.
see the subgraph is keeping staying synchronized with the new blocks.
Yeah.
And here it even does the filtering by keeping only the three latest by doing the ordering
Yes.
by number and then the direction of the ordering. So that's fully generic. Here I could order by something else. I could. It will not really make sense, I feel, but
Yeah, you could actually shape. You could actually shape the. Is it the schema? Yes, it's a schema. With kind of the questions you sort of anticipate the sort of questions of end users, right? Like, what do you want to display to end users?
That's what you do to. That's what you should do to organize your.
Yep.
Because here it's a specific like kind of corner case because it's about the blocks in the chain. And usually it's more about that's what I because we have not even shown you yet the source code. So here, if we want to look what is in the subgraph, here we say so we define the two versions that are the spec version of the subgraph and then the API version of the mapping. And so you define first the schema. So the schema is defined in a GraphQL syntax in this schema file. So here you define what are the entities that you want to index. What is the result of the indexation? So here we say we define a type block, and in this type block, which will be an entity, we want to have this field. So the ID, the number, the timestamp, parentage, etc. So you define all the required field and all the required type. So here it's the easiest example because there is only one type. Easiest, like there is only one type and one object, and then that's the information that you are interested in the block when you are indexed based on Uniswap.
All right.
That's so. If we come back to the subgraph, so we could put updated the description, so indexing all Arthera block data. Then the repository, that's to find where to find the source code of the subgraph. Then there's the schema where you define the type, and then all the remaining is what they call the data sources. It's beginners here to read, or you want?
No. Okay, we can read. I mean, I think we're able to read.
Okay. So and then you need to define all this field. So like because it's by default it can only index contract.
Yes.
So here that's why the kind is Ethereum contract.
Got it.
Then that's the contract.
Of the basic token.
Yes, so I've used so maybe to be able to make that, what I've followed to make it maybe easier to understand. Well, I start with this part. So from the Uniswap V3 new chain deployment, here is a subgraph instruction.
Yep.
And so
Yeah,
for
you have all the steps for us actually to have this subgraph available, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So and so the first step is to have
Right.
this block indexer subgraph, which is used by the info.uniswap.org to pull information on the latest block. For example, the number of the block, the timestamp, the size, etc. And then, when you have this block indexer subgraph, then you can use the V3 subgraph, which is used by the smart order router that replaces the on-chain order router because this one is off-chain. Also the info Uniswap, and also the interface
Right.
for indexing information on pools, tick data, liquidity depth, latest transaction, routing, etc. Both of these subgraphs may be configured and deployed for new chain integration. And so before diving in, make sure to confirm the chain you are integrated is supported by the graph. So we have the kind of basic support because it's EVM compatible. Yeah, so we can run our own graph node
Yes. And
connected to this to
I
our
mean yeah, that's what's running, right? That so yeah,
yeah.
again, meaning that any project who would need to use a subgraph can keep on building on Arthera and contact our integration engineer Bertrand to get some help as they do that. So yeah, and so what were the next steps for this?
So like that's what I've shown you is the fork I've done of the block subgraph. Then I've used the contract you deployed last week, like the basic ERC20 contract that was deployed with Zardat and verified by Sourcify.
Yeah.
And so because it was verified and published, I was able to get easily the ABI. So here I can show you again so that was this contract.
Yes.
With the token name basic ERC20, this contract address. And in contract, it was exactly verified by Sourcify. We can view contract Sourcify, and then I just needed to copy the contract address and the contract ABI.
Yes.
With the button here. And so I put that, so as it explained here, only the ABI is required to proceed and replace the existing ABI converter registry contract JSON with the one from your dummy contract deployment. Then change the ABI value in subgraph.yml to the name of the ABI file you have added. And then adjust the start block. So values in subgraph.yml to the block number that you want to start to index. Here, if we want to index the full blockchain, all the blocks of the blockchain, that's why we started with the block 1.
Okay.
And then it's only when it's supported by the, as you see, by the hosted service. Because since the hosted service is deprecated, so it's not, at least officially, it's not accepting new chain. So that's why I've deployed locally on the graph node configured and created locally the subgraph. Like this is the same here. Create a new subgraph. There is in the package JSON a script to create locally a subgraph, and then there is also a script to deploy locally a subgraph.
Sure. So this was like deployed and used and sort of built locally, meaning on your machine. But again, we are able to host a certain
Yeah,
number of other
hmm?
subgraphs, right?
Yeah, it's I've done everything on the server that is
Okay,
hosting.
so it's not even okay. It's already
Yeah,
on a server. Okay, okay,
so I've not needed anything on my machine.
okay.
Uh, and so when you do all this modification, then at the end you do the yarn install after
Mhm.
cloning when you clone and then modify the needed file, you do a yarn install to install the dependencies.
Yep.
Then you do the yarn code gen
Exactly.
to generate the type for TypeScript from the source code of the subgraph in the ABI. The
Hmm.
subgraph, you look at the subgraph, the schema and the ABI to be
Hmm.
able to generate the types. And then these types are used by the yarn build that build what's like the assembly script that will be deployed when you do yarn deploy.
All right. All right.
And so if you look at the what is it's done, it's like this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I've never even changed the entities. I could have changed the entities here, but it's not really indexed, I think, in this. What we are interested is more to have the block handlers. So in the block handlers, then we call the handle block,
Mm-hmm.
and the mapping of the blocks is in SRC mappings blocks.
Okay.
So that's what creates the mapping of the data here, blocks. And that's where you used what you define into the schema. So in the schema, we defined the block. And
Mm-hmm.
here we say we want to handle block. So with when the function on the block is called with a block argument which is of type ethereum.block, we want to map all this data. So here is the data you receive from a blockchain, and
Mm-hmm.
here is the data you put in the PostgreSQL database for the entity that will be stored in the database and will be replied to the GraphQL queries.
Okay.
As you can see, sometimes you need to do conversion
Mm-hmm.
because here, so for the first is easy. It's we want the number to be the number, the timestamp to be the timestamp, but the parentage, you need to put the parentage to hexadecimal
Mm-hmm.
to then store it the parentage. The same for rotor, and so that's why you need to be careful about the types or
Mm-hmm.
about what you want to reply to the
Mm-hmm.
user of your subgraph.
Okay.
And at
Okay.
the end, we save the block entity.
Okay. Interesting.
So
All right.
that's the main part.
Uh,
Uh, I think there is no mapping. Yeah, because there is no mapping of what is happening, what happened in this address because we only index the blocks. So it's just about just to keep the syntax correct.
right.
Yep. So that was the Subgraph YML. We have seen the GraphQL. I've shown you the deployment, like the design workflow explained by Uniswap, and I've shown you the result. You want me to try to redo it from scratch, or we can already stop there?
I still have like a hard stop in 15 minutes, but
It should not be too long.
yeah.
I mean, it's like we stop the current graph node. We remove is the storage, is
Yeah,
data storage,
I would say why
and
not? Why not? Let's go for it. If you have a bit of time.
okay, let's try. So you will have to authorize me again the screen sharing because I was sharing only
You want to
tabs.
share another screen? Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
And now I will even share my full screen. This way would be easier.
Yep. I got the
You just yeah. Okay. So so the purpose is to get back to this, to
okay.
have this working again.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I stop. Off. Maybe I can even keep. No, it will, and we will have this. So this will be the result. This URL
Mm-hmm.
to GraphQL will be the result of the successful deployment.
Mm-hmm.
Let's bet on it. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's funny because while you do that, like I kind of hope that we're able to deploy again and to have it, available again. But in fact, it's not a matter of sort of opportunity or something like that. It's you actually have to be able to deploy it correctly each time, right? Uh,
Yeah. I mean,
so
you have to be able to debug it or to deploy it again if there is some
yes,
failure.
exactly.
So here I've cloned the repository of the graph.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see here, graph
Mm-hmm.
protocol, graph node.
Okay.
Inside of it, there is a Docker directory.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Docker directory, I can even remove there is a Docker compose YAML,
Docker compose file, yeah.
and that's what manage all the dependencies.
Okay.
So you see that he has three services.
Mm-hmm.
The main services is GraphNode, which is taken from the Docker container of Graph Protocol GraphNode.
Mm-hmm.
And it opens all this port. And then it depends on IPFS service and Postgres service.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And here you see, now I will have to change the password next time, I think, because by default it's not. I mean, it's like pass or
Oops.
something like this.
Wait, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh. Okay, I just understood the issue we have here.
Uh, and then you define the RPC
Right.
for the different network you want to index.
All right.
And so by default, what graph load you want. So yeah, you need IPFS and
Mhm.
Postgres, and this correspond to what you put here. So here you have the IPFS,
Right. If
which
you
have
just
persistent data that we
Mhm.
will remove. And that's where you define the password.
Mhm.
And then you have also the persistent volume for the Postgres.
All right, and this is like just for the password. I'm sorry for being paranoid here, but this is the password you want to change, right? Right after this session, right?
Yeah, I mean, to if
Just
because when you have a public password, I mean, put the password shown in public, it's not, I feel, a password anymore.
right, right. When it's a public
At least
password, it's not a
an
password
accurate
anymore.
password anymore.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's just that the more I work for Arthera, the more I get paranoid, and the better it is. So, so so yeah. Next step: Docker Compose.
So yeah, I've stopped the Docker stack, the Docker Compose stack. So you can
Okay.
notice here that there is no minus anymore between Docker and Compose,
Okay.
because here I'm using the Compose plugin of Docker
Okay.
and not the Docker Compose tool that still exists, but
All
that
right.
was existing. So actually now with the new version of Docker, you don't need to download Docker Compose separately because the Compose plugin has been
All right.
added. So like if you use outdated documentation, you will see Docker minus Compose, and it
Mm.
will tell you, I don't have the binary Docker minus Compose.
Mm.
So you could still download Docker minus Compose, but it's not, I think, maintained anymore, or it's just keeping it separated doesn't help to when it's already bundled into Docker.
Mm-hmm.
So it has removed all the container,
Mm-hmm.
and also removed the network that connect all these container.
Right.
If I look with Docker Compose PS, you will see that there is no running container anymore on this Docker Compose stack.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's check. Oh no, yeah. So I made a backup of the data by moving data to data old.
Mm.
Now I can do the same. I remove data old.
Hmm.
Yeah, with sudo because uh, it's run by Docker, and now I can even move. I can move data to data old,
Okay.
and then the Docker Compose will not find again his data directory,
Mm-hmm.
so it will restart from scratch.
All right.
All the container, the three container will, the two containers that have persistent data will restart from scratch. You
Mm-hmm.
can see that the graph node has no persistent data.
It's not okay. Okay. Got it.
So I removed. Okay, so by removing the data directory, I removed also all the subgraph
Mm-hmm.
and all the subgraph results. And now, instead of done, I will do app minus D. And D for demonize to not keep it in the shell.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same way that he started, not in the same way, in the reverse way, because it managed the dependencies. So first he starts the network,
Mm-hmm.
then he starts IPFS, then Postgres, and then the graph node.
Right.
And
Right.
the graph node, if you look at the log, in the logs, the start of the graph node, wait for IPFS and Postgres to be
Ready.
to be ready, but
Mm-hmm.
to offer the service. And then you can look at the logs, and you can see that the graph node is already ingesting blocks.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
I
So
mean,
these
yeah,
are the logs. These are the logs of the graph node.
what you said?
What kind of logs are that?
Well, that's the log of the graph node, yes.
The log of the graph node. Yes. Okay. Okay.
And so you see
Just in
it
logs.
looks by querying the RPC, it
Uh-huh.
see at which block what is the latest block head and what is the current block head.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And so how many blocks behind,
Oh,
how many blocks are needed to index and how many blocks behind it is,
okay.
and for which provider.
Okay.
Because here, so that's what I've shown you in the Docker Compose. To make that work, you need to query RPC node with archive feature.
Yeah.
So here, to make it faster, I'm running my own RPC node on the same machine.
Okay.
And so here you see mainnet. It says that the network. That's That's why you put mainnet into the subgraph YAML, because I've defined mainnet here. If I name
Yeah.
it Arthera here, I'll have to name it Arthera in the subgraph also.
To rename it Arthera testnet everywhere, and you don't want to do that here, and that's why mainnet here means Arthera testnet.
Yeah, at least for now. I mean, because it was a preparation. If we want to run it in a cleaner way in production, we should name it Arthera there.
Yes.
And
But
then
my guess is that you will not have time to change the naming here because mainnet is coming. So right. So you won't have
yeah,
the.
but mainnet could be confusing because
Yes,
it
that's
could
right.
be mainnet of many EVM chain. But yeah, I feel I could have just put testnet instead of mainnet,
Yeah.
and that could be enough.
No, no, but that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so we need to recheck that it was correctly indexing, or at least ingesting, like here, having the Ethereum polling block ingester that works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any RPC connection issue. And now, so if I run the Docker PS again, you can see that I have the three service running. So the graph node,
Mm-hmm.
the IPFS, and the Postgres.
All right.
And then I come back to here. So like I've already forked, I could even do it from scratch.
Mm,
So that's old. And so if I go to there, I go to there, go to there, git clone. Because I had a bug last time the first run, so we'll see
mm-hmm.
if I will reproduce. I mean, there is maybe one error made by following the documentation. I've
Mm-hmm.
installed globally the graph command, and it
Okay.
seems we don't need it globally anymore. It's better to run it through yarn,
In it, in the repository. Okay.
so it can create confusion in the hash, which graph command it should use if it's not the same version.
Yeah.
Because so I've cloned the fork. So here, a fork, and then as I've shown you, I've modified all the needed file.
Mm-hmm.
So I do just that.
Okay. So it's gonna be a yarn install for you here.
And because it's yarn and not PNPM, but still, I managed to get dependency pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, if we do yarn graph minus version, we can check that is well running the graph that was installed in the node modules.
Right. Okay.
If you do graph minus version, you can see that it's not running the same version.
Okay. And why?
So
Why do we check that? I didn't get it.
because you can have problem if you don't run the graph version by yarn and
Uh-huh.
just run graph version saying, oh, that's the same. And I will run the global version of graph instead
Mm-hmm.
of the version installed by yarn.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Thanks. Thanks.
So I feel it's
And so,
confusing. And so
right.
we
Next step
should
is to
remove the.
run code gen, right?
It's what you said?
Next step is to do that yarn.
Yeah. So then in the code gen, it will run graph, but the graph of installed by yarn.
Okay.
Let's see.
So let's see what that gives.
Yeah, that's what I got the first time.
Okay. Okay.
It says that the current version of GraphCD can be used with mapping an API version less than 0.0.5. But it was because it's 0.0.4. If you look at the file here, here it's 0.0.4
Okay.
and 0.0.2. But then, if I don't understand why, but last time we had some time because maybe I had to do the code. I didn't really understood how it managed to work at some time. What I've done is that I do yarn build.
Okay.
Then it failed also.
Okay.
But the build migrated. It applied migration.
Okay.
And then when I retried the code gen, then it worked.
Then it's better. Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's okay.
I've reproduced the bug at least.
All right. Nice. And so
Just
are we already good to go, or
yeah. Then just so like
yarn build again, I guess? No?
here it just we will use the create local and deploy local
Okay.
because we are locally on the node.
And so does that mean we can use the GraphQL interface already?
Not yet. I
Not
mean,
yet, huh?
you can, but without any subgraph. So you cannot.
Okay.
I mean, the GraphQL is running, but without any subgraph, you won't be able to access any yet.
Got it. Yeah, yes, because as we were preparing this thing, you were telling me about like we actually need a contract to be deployed, and then we need some actual activity on that specific smart contract to end subgraph to just to be able to make one simple query, right? Okay.
So yeah, but here because we index the blocks and not a smart contract, that's why the blocks are already produced, and so that's why it works. So first, to be able to deploy, first I need to create the name of the subgraph. That's what is doing yarn create local.
Okay.
So here it created the subgraph, and it's a unique name. So if someone else try to create the same name, it will not work. And then we do deploy local. So I could
Okay.
that.
Okay.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
And then he asks, so here you can manage a version. So
Okay.
here I will put the version label as recommended because that's the first deployment.
Mm-hmm.
And then, voila.
Yes. So yeah.
And then we got, as I told, we got the GraphQL URL. And we just need, because I deployed it locally on the server, we just need to replace this localhost part by the DNS name
Yep.
because Docker forwards the port. And
Okay.
it's blocked by the firewall.
Okay. Makes sense.
And so this is for the GraphQL playground. And if you want to send HTTP queries from your UI, for example, or from anywhere you want to query the subgraph, you will use just the same, but without the GraphQL suffix.
All right. All right.
And so if I copy that, and I can, for me, it even works because I have a SSH tunnel to the server. So if I open it, it will magically work. And because it also keeps in the browser memory the query, you can get back the query that you had before.
Okay. 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 I got it. I got it.
Now, if I run to get
Yes.
the first 10 blocks,
Yes, please.
and it works again.
And you actually get these 10 first blocks.
And
Okay.
if I want to get the 10 latest blocks, you will see that it will take time to index because
All right. All right.
I want to order.
No, but that's already successful. So that's really cool, Bertrand.
Up. And so, like 3 blocks. And yes, number instead of order by number. We could order by timestamp also, but okay.
It's gonna be time to wrap it up, but
Yeah, that's and yeah, you see that he's already indexed more than 50,000 blocks.
all right. All right.
We still
Thousand block.
have more than like 1 million. So we have
Yeah.
1 million blocks to index,
Uh-huh.
but it was to show you that it can quickly see 20 and so it needs some time to index to ingest and index all
Yes.
the blocks.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. All right. So
But at least you see it was a working demo and not just
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's kind of required if you want to deploy like a whole like Uniswap v3 app. It's kind of required. So it's not a nice to have, it's a must have actually, and thanks to you we actually have it now, so that's really cool. And same for any projects building on Arthera. So yeah, that's great. You want to add anything else people should know? Of course we're going to add some links in the notes of the video. But yeah, so yeah, I would say it's, you can really like sort of sort of unleash your creativity a bit, and because you can use already existing subgraphs, but it's also possible to sort of edit and you know, build all these schemas specifically for the service you're building, and yeah. Anything else, Bertrand?
No, I mean,
Because
we are already, it's 42, so that's the time to
That's a
to
good
end.
one. It's 42, and it's actually night now here. Um, so yeah.
So thanks for the patience, your patience.
Yeah. And thanks everyone for bearing with us, and see you next week.
Yeah.